We are live, Chair.
Okay, so I will reopen the regular meeting. And we are on item number 5.1. So we're into delegations, and we have the pleasure of Dolores visiting us again. Bring her in. Nordic Relations. Hi, Dolores.
Hello. Hello, everyone. It seems like I was just here not so long ago.
It does.
We become a regular spot, I guess. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you a bit about the grant application, what we're applying for. I'm a part of the Spud Valley Nordic Association, and probably most of you here know about it. If you wanted me to give you some details about the organization, I could, but it has been in operation in Pemberton area for more than 35 years. And this year, what we're doing, we have something a little bit different than we usually do. Each year we encourage everybody that's involved from 5 years old to 12-year-olds. We encourage them to not only do recreational skiing and have fun while they're skiing, but also if they want to get involved in racing. And so our club has always paid for the race fees for any child in the program who wants to race. And usually they just go to local races. And then we try to encourage those kids that are a little bit older, the kids that are 9 to 12-year-old, 9 to 13-year-olds, if they're really skilled and keen, to do an extra day of skiing each week and be a part of a race team. But this year, for the first time ever, we are having we're part of what is called a community corridor race team. And what has happened is Whistler and Pemberton, we've invited to see a sky in Squamish as well, but they're not a part of it. They don't have any skiers that want to do it. We've gotten together. The two clubs are going to train together. Their kids are going to train together, and we have a paid coach. Whistler Nordics has actually hired the paid coach, and our club, or everybody who registers, has to pay a certain fee. So the fee for our children in Spud Valley to be a part of this program is $750 for the season. Now, I didn't want to discourage any kids, keen skiers, from being a part of that with that high price. So what we've decided to do, our club has decided that we would ask them to pay $300, and our club would subsidize the $450 per child. So to subsidize that amount, then we would apply for grants and try to do fundraising. So a large part, the biggest part of the grant that I've applied for from here is to cover the $450 subsidy for the children. So far, we have 6 children that are part of it, and they started training in September. They will be a part of our Monday program. In addition, they can choose to, as a part of this race program, they can choose to ski 2 or 3 more days in addition to the Monday program. So about $5,000, we would be subsidizing $5,000 because we do have 6 children in the program now, but we think as soon as our program starts in December, our Monday program, there'll be a few more that will join because they will see what's happening, what's actually available to them. And then the other $2,000 that we, as part of this grant that we've applied for from here, is to be used for the race fees. That race team will go to many more races than they normally have, and the races will be in different parts of the province. So to pay the race fees for those children, plus the travel subsidy when they go to places like where they have to take the ferry to Vancouver on to Mount Washington and to the places beyond George or the Okanagan, just to subsidize the parents who are the travel costs, not to pay it all, but just to subsidize it. Now, we, in addition to the grant that we've applied for here, we did apply for and receive $1,000 grant from Cal Tire, and that is going to be used in a sense for the race program and such because we're going to be paying the cost of coaching courses for the coaches. All our coaches are volunteers. Everybody who works in our program is a volunteer, but our club tries to encourage them to improve their coaching skills. And so we pay for any coaching courses that they take. So that grant will pay for that. And then in addition to that, we've raised $475 from the recent Lumpy Septic Run. That was on October 30th. That was amazing. It was pouring rain. We thought, who's going to show up? Just before the race started, the sun came out. We had more people take part this year than last year. So it doesn't matter to runners, right? If it's raining. Anyway, so that's the details on the grant that I applied for. Any questions?
Thanks, Dolores. Any questions from the committee? Director Mack and then Director Kennett.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is you guys do a wonderful job and fully supportive of whatever you need.
Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Director Kennett.
I second that. Yeah, no, it's great. Dolores, you put so many years of volunteering in, and it just wouldn't be where it's at without you and your team. So thanks.
You're welcome.
It contributes to the whole vibrancy of our community. So
Thank you. So question, I mean, in the past, we've always been very happy to support the work you guys do there, Dolores. Question to staff, with regards to the policy surrounding our funding, how does this fit in? Because I know that there's something within our funding that says that we can't fund one organization from two different sources. So I just want to check in terms of how that would work.
If you want to, you able to take that?
Yeah, I'll just come a little closer so I can hear and be heard. Can I just ask for clarification on that question regarding the two different funding sources?
Well, I do, you know, we've supported this group with other funding, and I thought our policy said that we can't fund the same organization through two streams. Or I'm just wondering how this works. With this request fits in. Does it tick all the boxes, or is there any challenges?
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And sorry to those who have not met me before. My name is Philippa Campbell. I am the project and research coordinator for the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District, and one of my roles is to assist administer this fund. The Spudden Valley Nordic Association, their last funding was a one-time application through the PVUS fund. They have completed the requirements for that one-time application, including the final report. So to my knowledge, they are not currently funded by the SLRD under any other program. They are coming again with another one-time application under PVUS. I am not aware of any other funding, but would look for additional information on that if it was available. But that was not a concern for this particular application.
Okay, thank you for that. So I guess my question, Dolores, would be for you. Do you want us to maybe look at long-term funding as opposed to year-over-year one-time requests? Might be more efficient and provide some consistent funding, and might be a little bit smoother within our policy. So I'm wondering if you feel that you're going to be coming forward with similar requests every year. Should we look at long-term funding for you?
Wow, never thought of that. Made it easier than filling out a form each year application, wouldn't it? If that works, that would be fine. That'd be great.
Okay. So what's the cleanest way to proceed here from a staff perspective here? I sense a general desire to support the funding request. Should we send it back with direction to work with Nordic Spuds on a long-term funding arrangement? Is that the best way to proceed?
Russ.
Mike?
Yeah, go ahead, Director Mack.
Yeah, Councillor Ramsden had her hand up. You may not have seen it.
No, I didn't. Go ahead.
Just, I guess would be back to a policy question. I noticed in the agenda package there, I believe one of the policies is that in terms of one-time funding, there's a suggested maximum, and I believe staff had flagged that it was, the grant is for several $1,000s over, and so just just wondering if there's anything that has to be considered in terms of dealing with that limit, if that exists. I also realize I may have read that wrong, so.
No, you read that right. That's a great question. Staff want to comment on that?
Through the chair. First of all, apologies. There is a staff report that also accompanies the two one-time applications that you are seeing today. We don't have the flexibility to bring that, with the delegations in the agenda. So the question that you're asking is in that report. That was something that was written. That is correct. And that was a staff comment put forward about this particular application because at the moment $7,000 is out of alignment with the policy. The maximum for one time is suggested at $5,000. So that was read correctly, and we would look forward to comment from the committee on that as they look at what their recommendation is going to be on this one-time application to the SLRD board. In terms of process to look at long-term funding. We have a specific request on the table today for this winter and the programs that are on for this winter. And it might be a suggestion for the committee to speak to the applicant as to whether that is something that they would like to see funded at whatever level the committee recommends for this winter, to go back and look at long-term funding. That may require additional time for you to look at, for the applicant to look at what they need over that long term. And that may delay funding that may be needed for the programs this year. So may I suggest that the committee, it could be a suggestion that the committee looks at this application as it stands, and the recommendation could be to come back next year if long-term funding was of interest, with the plan and an understanding of what you might need to fund the programs. So that would be a suggestion. Again, appreciating that there is administration time involved with all of these, but as to whether I certainly would not want to make a recommendation that would impact the programming as laid out in the current application.
Thank you for that. I think that's, yes, that's very clear. I think it's a great suggestion. So let me start with that question for the committee. Are we comfortable looking at 1 year funding for this year and directing staff to work with the applicant to look at multi-year or long-term funding for future years? And then we'll talk about the amount in a moment. So is everybody comfortable with that direction? Seeing, I think, nodding heads. How would we like to approach the fact that this is, I think, $2,000 above the cap set out in our policy? Anybody like to make a comment from the committee?
I will, Mike.
Go ahead, Director Kennett.
I just feel like, as everything has gone up, the $2,000 increase isn't that far out of line with the cost of living and the cost of fuel and the cost of transportation and all the rest of it. So I have no problem funding their request, just because of the extra costs of everything have gone up so high, and the better coaching they've got.
So would you like to move? Go ahead, Director Max.
Yeah, I was going to second that motion.
Okay, so a motion to support a $7,000 funding request for this year and to direct staff to work with Nordic Spuds for long-term funding in the future. That's the motion. Director Kennett, seconded by Director Mack. Any further discussion? Opposed? Motion carries. Is that full enough direction for staff there? We good with that?
Thank you, Chair. We do have a full resolution coming up in the staff report sort of associated with these that has sort of additional details.
Okay.
Which,
Perfect.
sorry, 8 points.
think that was the
Is
resolution.
that the resolution? Yeah,
Passed.
I just want to check.
Yeah.
The corporate officer has that information.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Jen.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, now we're gonna go on to, thank you, Dolores.
Thank you. I can leave.
Oh, Chair,
Okay.
if I can just get a resolution, because it's contrary to the policy, just a something like that notwithstanding the policy, the board proceed with the funding as previously as resolved in the previous resolution. Just that notwithstanding wording
That sounds like one of my motions, Kristen.
over.
Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll second that.
Second, any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Loris.
Thank you, Dolores. So we're on to 5.2, another delegation. It's from Danielle Elway from the Pemberton Child Care Society regarding the Christmas Bazaar. I'm a vote for this. Is there somebody on the screen that I can't see?
Elway is connecting currently.
Okay.
Not sure if she's just called. Miss Elway, are you turning on your camera? Can you hear us?
She's on mute, by the way.
Not sure she can hear us. Miss Elway? Would you like to unmute? Oh, she's, saying she's unable to unmute. Do you see a unmute button on your screen, Miss Elway? Not sure if it's just not working for her or.
I think the administrator, whoever's administrating the session, should be able to unmute her as well. They probably have her. I think so.
I should be able to do that. I believe I've just asked you to asked you to unmute, or has that changed anything for you, Ms. Elway? Perhaps we could recess for just a moment.
Sure thing. Let's recess. Let me know when you're good to go there, Kristen. Take 5.
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Elway.
Hi there.
Okay, call the meeting back to order. And are we good? Are you recording, Kristen? Good. Good afternoon, Ms. Elway. Thanks for joining
Thank
us.
you. Hi, thanks everyone. My name, for those of you who don't know, is Danielle Elway. I'm the former chair of the Pemberton Child Care Society Board of Directors. I have resigned from the board this year, but I am coordinating the annual Christmas Bazaar here for the Pemberton Child Care Society. We've applied for the PDIF funding to help with the cost of running this fundraiser for the Pemberton Children's Center so we can increase our fundraising revenues. This year, we are using the funds from this fundraiser to offset our operating costs to try and help keep fees low for families and also to support the application for the $10 a day childcare program with the province, which does have some requirements that we were close to meeting, but our operating expenses were definitely higher than they'd like to see. I don't know if that's a geographic issue or with their kind of blanket requirements. Yeah, as many of you are aware, the Bazaar is a beloved event in our community and a great kickoff to the holiday season. We attract hundreds of people from the Sea to Sky corridor, and we would be grateful to receive a grant to ease the expenses related to running this event. So we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Elway. Appreciate it. Any questions? Again, I'm not seeing, I can't see hands very well. Speak up if you have any questions. Seeing none, any comments? Okay. Would somebody like to move the funding request? I can't see hands. There we go. I see a hand there. That's Director Mack. Yeah, go ahead, Director Mack.
Yeah, I'll move that.
Okay, seconder. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Clark.
Thanks. So that's subject to entering into the one-time funding agreement required by the policy funding of $2,766 be granted to the Pemberton Child Care Society from PDIF and specifically the arts and culture recreation stream towards hosting the 2022 Pemberton annual Christmas Bazaar.
Correct. And do we want to perhaps encourage again, if this is going to be a year-over-year request, that we look at perhaps long-term funding for your group as well, Ms. Elway?
That would be great if that would be something that you would consider.
So we'll amend the motion to include directing staff to work with the applicant to look at long-term funding. You good with that, Director Mack, that amendment?
Yes, that's fine.
Seconded by Director Kennett. Any further discussion? I think it's an easy support, Ms. Elway, and prepare yourself. I feel that it's going to be a really busy Christmas Bazaar this year. You're going to have a lot of people.
Yeah, we're trying to stuff some more vendors in there if we can.
Yeah, well, good luck on that, and happy to support it, and thank you for the work you do.
Thank you all very much. We hope to see you at the Bazaar.
Thank you. I'll call the question. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Elway.
Thank you.
Chair, that was the motion on the amendment, and if you can call the question on the.
Oh, I thought it was a friendly amendment. That was agreed. Okay. So that was the vote on the amendment. Then I'll call a vote on the motion as amended. Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Kennett. Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Thank you.
Okay. That takes us to the consent agenda. Would anybody like to pull anything out of the consent agenda? Seeing none, move as presented. Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any business arising? Seeing none, we're on to 8.1, SLRD CAO verbal report. Mr. Dalton.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Two items. The first is we have a conflict with the next scheduled December, or the scheduled December PVUS meeting with conflict with the SLRD board orientation on the 1st of December. So we've identified a couple of days for the committee's consideration the following week. And they are Monday, the 5th and Wednesday, the 7th, knowing that that's a busy week with Village of Pemberton, strategic planning, and council meeting, but we're looking to see if the committee would support either Monday, the 5th or Wednesday, the 7th for the next PVUS meeting.
Ms. Tracy, can you remind me when our strategic planning is?
Yes, that is Thursday, the 8th and Friday, the 9th.
Okay,
We do not have a council meeting that week on Tuesday. That is on the 13th.
okay. Anybody, any thoughts from the committee? Schedule?
So that would open up the 6th as well then, Chair, I suppose. So 5, 6, or check again here. 5, 6, or 7, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
And what, are you proposing 1 o'clock? Is that the same time or can we go earlier?
I don't think there's any reason you couldn't set it at any time you'd wish.
My personal preference would be earlier in the day if we're going to reschedule to any of those days. So I would like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. If the committee, I could do any of those days at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning if the rest of the committee is amenable.
Yeah, I'm going with 10
Okay.
on any day.
Okay. How about Monday at 10 a.m.? Monday, that's the 5th, Craig?
Yes. Yep.
Does that work for everybody? I can't see Jan there. Does that work? Okay. Okay. So we'll get a motion to that effect. Director Mack. Second,
Yes.
Second by Director Kennett. Oh, wait, we got discussion. We good?
Okay.
Okay, call the question. Any opposed? Motion carried.
And my second point, Mr. Chair, is again, it's agenda meeting schedule, but we'll be working to put together the 2023 PVUS committee schedule as part of the SLRD board and committee schedule. And what we'd like to seek is the committee's approval to be as efficient as we can. I know that's a blinding flash of the obvious, but you know, what we're going to try and do, and I know I've spoken to Ms. Tracy about this too, is really try and focus committee time for the benefit of committee members, but also for staff. So if we don't need to meet monthly, for example, across committees, we're going to take a really hard look at that. And what we'll do is we'll look at the history of this committee's meeting schedule. We'll take into account this busy time of the year with PDIF, the busy time early winter around the budget, but then try and propose a good schedule that is both effective and efficient. So we just seeking the committee's approval to be able to take that flexibility and bring forward what we think is best. And then when the committee sees this at its next meeting, if there are any issues or concerns, we can certainly address it.
I think that's a great direction, CAO Dalton. Let's maximize the meetings we do have and not overburden staff when we don't need to with other meetings. That's a great idea. Any comments from the committee?
Yeah, Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with, you know, being diligent with our time, but we don't want to spread things out so far that it takes time to actually move things along. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. Any other comments? Anything else on your report, CAO?
No, that's it, Chair.
Thank you so much. Motion to receive, please. Director Mack, seconded by Director Kennett. Any opposed? Motion carries. Village of Pemberton CAO verbal update. CAO Tracy.
I just want to voice my support for the proposal that CAO Dalton has just brought forward. Thank you to the committee for considering that. And then I also wanted to thank the members of our Recreation Finance team for bringing forward their reports today. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. We'll receive that. Director Mack, seconded by Director Kennett. Motion carries. Okay, we're on to 8.3. This is the Recreation Services Manager November 2022 update. Burns.
Good afternoon, committee, and thank you, Chair, for having me today. This is a fairly quick update, and thank you to Mrs. Campbell for assisting with PDIF. Back prior to my arrival, PDIF reallocated funds left over that had been allocated to Seed to Table Committee for youth programming to the tune of $2,123.01 for the Pemberton Youth Center to use towards youth programming. So I think it took a little while for this to become something we were able to actually activate and take advantage of. And again, thank you, Mrs. Campbell, for your patience. However, we did manage to spend the monies on some fantastic youth activities and events this past spring. So we hosted a movie night with the library. We hosted laser tag in conjunction with the library for the youth. We hosted a bubble soccer event in conjunction with Young Life, as well as ran a couple of other initiatives to try and re-engage the youth in the community and get them back into the rec. For all intents and purposes, this was hugely successful. Our attendance wasn't fabulous. I think it should be noted that it is very challenging to get youth out under normal circumstances, but we are starting to see more youth pop into the rec and participate in activities that are being organized. And I will attribute that to the generous contribution that we received as a result of PDIF funds being reallocated. So that is greatly appreciated. There's a couple of fun pictures. It's very hard to get pictures in the dark in the library, especially when you need permission to take pictures. So there's some great backs of heads there, which was just fun. And staff had a lot of fun organizing and running these activities. And then the other little piece to update you on is the basketball court construction. So supply chain issues, contractor challenges, and some weather incidents. However, you will notice that the poles are in place. And now we're just working with our colleagues to figure out how to get the backboards and the nets up. And we do anticipate that being completed. We were hoping this week, but it being a short week, it looks like it'll be next week. And then all of the invoices have been received at this point in time for that project. So we will see that finalized in Q4. So thank you. Any questions?
So much. Go ahead, Dr. Mack.
Yeah, it's with the running of the community center, how close are we to being back to normal pre-COVID? Or is that ever gonna happen?
Really, I think that there's never going to be the pre-COVID normal again, because COVID was significantly impactful on many levels. However, I think that I'm happy to speak to, may I speak to that question when we bring up Mr. Sikor to discuss financials?
Yeah.
Because I'm very optimistic, if that helps.
Okay, I guess, I'll just add another little bit to that.
Sure.
So all the programs that we had beforehand, are they all going to be reinstated, or are they reinstated?
I think it depends on what you think a program should that should be reinstated should look like. We have taken we have taken some initiative to reintroduce new programming to accommodate some programming that may not come back in the same shape or form that it was previously existed in. Much of that due to new COVID expectations of how you move forward, as well as some risk and liability considerations for some things that existed previously. But I am happy to say that I think the last thing to accommodate from a pre-COVID perspective would be the reintroduction of drop-in sports. So I'm happy to say that we are just working on booking space at Pemberton Secondary School for drop-in soccer and drop-in basketball. And that will be managed a bit differently moving forward. However, I'm hopeful we'll get a few nights in before Christmas holidays. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? don't think I see any hands.
I'd like to talk for just a sec.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Director Kenneth.
I'm just wondering, because of COVID and the restart of the community center and so on, I'm wondering if we should put out a community survey as to what some of the users would like to see, previous users and new users to do, as far as what new programming and so on, what they would like to see. I think it would be really beneficial for the community center to have that. And we could have something online, maybe. It doesn't have to be too complicated, I don't think, or hire a consultant for 50 grand or something. Let's, try and do it in-house and keep it as simple as we can. But, sort of informative so that we have a base, because it's almost like there's COVID and now there's after COVID, but there's always going to be constraints with public health. It's not going away, it's morphing into something else, right? So, just sort of maybe a report would be, I think, really handy to have now post-COVID.
Sure. I think we did run a fitness survey in the spring, and we have addressed all of the information that we received from that, but 100%. Yeah, definitely. I think with the village beginning to enter the OCP process as well, that there'll be a lot of information received about what the community is looking for from a recreation perspective from that point of view. However, I'm happy to do something from a programming perspective for the community for sure.
I just have one comment. I think there's quite a few young mums out there, and they're looking to have some of the programs like Jungle Gym or whatever reinstated. So if that is a problem from a health and safety, I don't know if that is or not and what they're doing in other community centers, but we are a very young community, and I think that that's an important program that could be reinstated fairly soon, I would think.
Yeah, so we did a bit of a survey of all of the other community groups and what they're offering in the community Monday through Friday, specifically for the 0 to 5 age demographic. And currently right now, there are a minimum of 2 programs a day between 9 and noon for that demographic. So it becomes one of those things where it's about trying to balance exactly what's happening so that everyone can be successful with what they're offering. But what we did do is we did reach out to Sea to Sky. So we have partnered with Sea to Sky Community Services in offering a drop-in parent talk program, which is on Tuesday mornings. I think it's 9:30 to 11 to fill one of those spots. So it's highly prescribed right now. We have a bunch of mom and tot like mom and baby fitness classes that are running. So currently we're welcoming everyone back in. It is also at this point in time a space related concern. We don't have the space to do much more than what we're currently doing. It's all on the radar though. It's Monday through Friday. The Great Hall is booked from 8 a.m. until 8:30 p.m. Monday through Friday at this point in time.
Right.
So it's about trying to figure out timing and space. I think I'm happy to call it out. Open gym, the way it was managed prior to my arrival also posed some challenges from a liability perspective in that it wasn't staffed. And then on top of all of that, with COVID at this point in time, it now becomes something that every item in that space needs to be sanitized upon after it's used, or and then it's just from a staffing perspective, it wasn't staffed prior to my arrival. It was just everybody come on in and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want with what we have. So it wasn't monitored. So it's something that from a fiscal perspective, it didn't break even before. It didn't come close to breaking even before. So having to staff it right off the bat, it quadruples the expense. So, but that said, it's not off the radar. It's more about the space availability at this time.
Just another question. So the room sort of behind the kitchen there, there's a room there
Yeah,
sort of off. Can that be utilized?
yeah, that's the one that Sea to Sky is using for Sea to Sky drop-in.
Right.
Right now. We also have a early years program starting in December that has filled up on Monday mornings. I believe that one is 9 till 9:30 to 11:30. So and that space is being utilized for that as well. That space is being utilized for aftercare 5 days a week, as well as we have a couple of other bookings in there throughout the day. So at this point in time, we are down to room B, which is upstairs on the second floor, just past where my office is. And that is the only room that we have for bookings. And often, depending on what the request is that comes in, we have to juggle what else is in there. So currently Pemberton Dance Studio uses that space as well, 4 afternoons a week from about 2 until 8 p.m. So if we have a daytime booking that wants to go past 2 o'clock, we juggle her.
Right.
So at this point, it's definitely a puzzle of what we're doing in the facility for sure.
From my perspective, from the funding part of it, like this is a community center that's funded by the taxpayers of the area, right? And I think that it's not necessarily a money-making proposition, this community center, right? It's for the use of all people in the community. And sometimes we just have to take a little bit of a hit.
Oh, 100%.
Right? I mean, that's what it's about, really, So anyways, I just want to.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
That's all I have to say. Thank you, though, for your
Yeah.
hard work. I'm sure it's not easy juggling everything and keeping everybody happy.
We're trying.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Yeah.
We're definitely trying. And I would like to say that I get a sense that we are closer to getting there than not. So
Agreed.
one day at a time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Seeing none, could I get a motion to receive the rec manager's report, please? Director Mack, seconded by Director Kennett. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Burns. Next up, we have the third quarter rec financials. Mr. Sikora is joining us.
Yes.
He is. Good afternoon, Mr. Sikora.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for having me today.
Yeah, I think we are going to tag team this one, if that's okay with the committee. Since hopefully I'm the one who is ultimately responsible for this gentleman's, what this gentleman does so finely for us. What I'd like to say is that I'm super pleased with where we're at from a fiscal position based on how we budgeted for 2022. If the committee recalls, we started 2022 with the facility completely closed due to public health orders and restrictions. And that lasted until March 25th. So that was pretty much our first quarter limping along quite successfully. And it's super ironic because I just met with our fitness programmer, for instance, the other day. And I'm like, do you even remember what it was like in February of this year? And she's like, no. So what I'm pleased to say is that even though we've had pre-pandemic or we've had pandemic impacts from a fiscal position, you'll notice that we're overspent in some areas, and that is a result of our revenue lines being much stronger than we had predicted. So I would say that in answer to your question earlier, Director Mack, I'm very pleased with where we're at from a fiscal position with the Q3 report, and I anticipate that you will see some overtures in expenses as a result of revenue lines being stronger than anticipated as well. So because often in recreation, expenses are directly related to our revenues for the most part. So if there are any specific questions in regards to the Recreation Services Q3 financials, we are happy to receive those now.
Questions? I'm not seeing any hands. Am I missing anybody? Okay, seeing none. Can I get a motion to receive? Director Mack, I'm going to assume. Director Kennett, any discussion? Opposed? Motion carries. Great job, Thomas. Thank you, Ms. Burns. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. We will see you soon.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Thank you. Bye now.
Okay, we are on to 8.5. This is a direction request from staff for the PDIF applications. We've already made some motions to this regard. Is there anything left through this report that needs to be addressed? No?
Through the chair, I don't believe so. We have the two recommendations from the committee on the funding, and unless there's any additional questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Seeing none, thank you very much, and we'll go on to 8.5. This is the PDIF fund, the fee waiver process. Turn it back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Just again for the virtual world, Philippa Campbell for the SLRD. We have a report before you today to request some staff time to work on a fee waiver process for the Pemberton and District Initiative Fund. We have a requirement under the Recreation Service Fees and Charges Bylaw 1772/2022 that fee waivers are considered through the Pemberton and District Initiative Fund, PDIF. At this point in time, we do not have a process for considering these. This is a result of the transition from the Pemberton and District Community Fund over the years. We've had a change from cost centre to the new PDIF cost centres, and this piece has not been considered to this point. We've also obviously just come through COVID, and there's been a great reduction in the number of fee waivers coming through for the Pemberton and District Community Centre. So this is a new piece that we have to consider, and it's arisen out of the Pemberton Rotary Club putting in a request for a fee waiver. So what we are asking for is just time to go away and consult with both Village and SLRD staff, and thank you to the Village of Pemberton staff already who have helped in the construction of this report. We'd just like to come back with a report with a process for these fee waivers that is as streamlined as possible to allow them to be considered in a reasonable amount of time. The current application process for one-time seed and long-term funding for Pemberton and District Initiative Fund is not the recommended way we would like to bring these fee waivers forward. It's a little bit it doesn't suit sort of the more rapid nature of these requests. So we'd like some time to consider how we set up this process to make it both streamlined and equitable. We have had a suggestion that a certain amount of the money in the arts, culture, and recreation stream and also the economic development stream could be set aside for these fee waiver requests for a little bit of to help sort of create a small budget for these. And that's something that we could look into as we bring this report back. At this stage, I don't have any particular update on the Rotary Club request, but you have that information before you. And one of the recommendations is that we can continue working with them on their particular request as we go through this process. Thank you, Chair. Back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Any questions? Seems like the smart direction to go. Oh, go ahead, Director Kennett.
I'd just like to comment. I think that, for an organization like the Rotary, which is does a lot of charity for our community and so on, I think, you know, that it comes back in different ways to our community. As opposed to, you know, charging them so much to have their meetings there. And let's face it, it's very limited space in our community to have meeting spaces for organizations, right? So yeah, I think we should waive the fee for them.
Thank you, Director.
Whether it should be an ongoing, I don't know how onerous and all of that is to say if you're a charity organization, you know, you don't have to pay or a nominal fee to cover the hydro or whatever, I don't know.
That's what staff is looking to go away and figure out those sort of steps for waiving those fees. Yeah, thank you for that. Anyone else? Somebody like to move the recommendation from staff? Oh, sorry, Ms. Campbell, did you have your hand up there?
I did briefly, Chair, just to sort of clarify that, you know, the previous process, there was a previous process in place, and it was put in place because there was a requirement to cover the operating costs for that facility. And that's why we would like to come back with a formal process so that we can make sure that is maintained. And then the committee would have the input on the approval of the fee waivers or not. So at this stage, we're not considering whether to, just for clarity, we are not considering whether to grant this fee request at the moment. We don't even have enough information as to what that looks like or what their schedule would be for the Rotary Club. And we'd like to work with them for more to get those details. So I just wanted to clarify that we don't have an actual specific approval in place for that particular fee waiver request. It is part of the work that we need to do.
Ms. Campbell, will you be able to complete that work so that the Rotary can, if approved, can carry on in that timeline? Is that a...
Thank you, Chair. It would need to come back again because we would need specific approval to spend those funds in whatever process. We could. There are ways that we could work within our current within the funds to get that done, potentially without having to go through the full application process, but it will require the recommendation from the committee and probably to go to the board as per all of our other applications. So willing to work with them, absolutely, and that is part of what we're asking approval to do today.
And are we, sorry, I don't want to complicate things, are we considering delegating some of this authority to staff in the future? So with these sort of waivers, so that if applicants tick all the boxes, they're charities, nonprofits, that sort of thing, that staff can make those determinations on their own? Is that something we're considering?
Thank you for the question, Chair. If I have done brief work on the past process, and there was always a committee approval included in the process, but it wasn't necessarily as onerous as coming to the committee and going through a presentation. I believe there was a check-in with the committee for approval, but it wasn't necessarily coming to a formal meeting. So the intention would be to work with village staff to bring a streamlined process that was still had visibility for the committee and still got your approval before we moved ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Dalton.
I might just add, yes, I think we want to look at that. We want to consider delegation in types of work like this. So just to build on what Ms. Campbell said, we'll include that as part of that work.
Okay, did I get a mover and a seconder, Kristen, on the recommendation?
I don't think so.
Okay, would somebody like to make the motion as presented by staff? By Director Mack, seconded by Director Kennett. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for all your reports today, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, we're on to 9, decision on late business. Late business, notice of motion. And again, I apologize if my attendance was disruptive today. I hope it was easier for you guys than it was for me. Ms. Ramsden, I had a hard time seeing you in the screen, so if I missed your hands, wasn't deliberate. Thanks everyone. I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.